All right, we are here at my outdoor worm bin, and what we're going to do is we are going to harvest some castings from this fabric pot outdoor worm bin. So one of the things I absolutely love about this 20-gallon fabric pot outdoor worm bin is I can harvest castings about once a week or every time I feed it. And what I do is I take from the outer edges and I'll put it into one of the trays of my VermiHut. This VermiHut has holes in the bottom of the trays. There's about 1,600 holes here. So what I do is I kind of take from the outside where it's drier and I'll just set it right in here. So I just take from the edges where it's drier. It's really moist in here because that's where the feedings go. And then I just kind of fill this up just like this. And then I just shake it down and the castings come out and they go inside this other fabric pot that I have right here. And what remains on top is most of the worms, almost all of them, and then some of these bigger pieces that are in here. And then from there, we'll pick out the individual worms, put them in here. And at the end, we'll put them down for a time lapse when we're finished feeding. And then I put the bigger chunks right here into this container. So now I just take the big pieces and then I put it into this white container right here. And then when I'm done, I'm just going to pour all this stuff right back in. So let's go ahead and go for round two. The other thing that's good about going around the edges is fewer of the worms are on the outside edges. They're mostly concentrated in the center in that feeding zone. Now we're sitting here pulling out worms, but you absolutely do not have to pull out the worms. I'm just doing this because I'm going to do a time lapse at the end. So you can skip this step and it will go much faster. All right, so we did that about 5 times and we pulled out this many worms. And let's check out the castings to see how well they're doing. So this right here gives you an idea of kind of the texture and some of the little bit smaller pieces that go through those 1/4-inch holes. But this is absolutely fantastic castings. And what I'm going to do is put them right into the storage. And there's probably a lot of cocoons in here that fall through the holes as well. And what's going to happen is any of those cocoons that hatch while they're in storage are going to have a little bit of food to continue to eat. So everything is just perfect. And I will probably start using these in about a month or two when I start my seed starting mix. So there you go. I just wanted to show you how we do our harvesting each week. And I want to show you kind of what the outdoor worm bag looks like after we're done harvesting. Pretty much everything around the sides that was drier is harvested very easily. And then the wetter stuff is in here. And it would be much harder to harvest kind of the more clumpiness right here. So just a great system for you to be able to harvest every week and constantly get castings. So what we're going to do is clean up a little bit and then we'll take this to start our next feeding with it. So I'll see you then. So that ended up being about 4.7 pounds of castings. So very happy with that harvest. Now what we're going to do is we're going to explore that last feeding that we had in here. And we had a couple of big tomatoes, we had a celery stalk, and we had big chunks of pumpkin along with some lettuce in here. And it's been about 9 days, so we'll see how they are doing. And I can already feel some of the worms right there. And here is what is left of one of the tomatoes. So, and here's another one, but I thought we had some bigger ones in there. Unless those went pygmy on me, I think we may have more. And check it out. We've got all the bedding from the bottom, and then we've got some more of these lettuce stalks from last time. But here is the big tomato, and let's see if they are all inside of it or not. It's kind of weird. It's almost like the tomato shrunk. It's got some interesting white stuff in there and a lot of the seeds, but it doesn't look like the worms have gotten too far into it. I know tomatoes take a little bit longer. And check that out. Okay, there's one, but this may have been from a previous feeding. But lots of good worms in here. Just check it out. Just all kinds of great red wigglers all throughout this bin. And this bin is just red wigglers. So let's go ahead and keep digging in. And here is our pumpkin stem. Still intact and still going, but certainly the worms are trying to get in and out of it. And let's dig in here. And what I'm going to do is, since all of this was in the middle and it's kind of more moist, I'm going to go from the outside in and kind of spread it out and get all that stuff that came out when we harvested and kind of mix it around. And as I'm doing that, I'm seeing, again, lots of great worms. This is just fantastic. So let's keep doing this, and then we'll come back and we'll set up our feeding zone. So we've made a hole for our feeding here, but something I want to mention is the executive producer made a good point. There was a little chocolate bar of wrapping paper that we had put in here, not the chocolate itself, but just the wrapping, and we shoved some of those little tomatoes in there. And I think they ate that whole wrapping without even a second thought. It's been 9 days and I didn't find any part of it. I'm finding some of this kind of stuff, but that is from a toilet paper roll. So let's go ahead and add some bedding and let's get started with our feeding. Now I'm going to add a lot of this shredded cardboard bedding because we took out almost 5 pounds of castings and a lot of volume. So adding this back in as a nice placeholder in here in the hole, I'll add the food scraps and the liquid will all drip down throughout the shredded cardboard. And again, I've showed you this before, but this shredded cardboard is just fantastic. I've got a 12-sheet cross-cut micro shredder that just takes Amazon boxes and just obliterates them. So we've got a lot to feed. I've got a whole huge avocado, at least I think it's an avocado. And then we've got some bananas and all kinds of lettuce stuff to put in here from my mom's house. So this was previously frozen, and I'm just gonna kind of rip it apart a little bit to help them get to it. And I think I'll put it upside down as well. It's gonna take them forever to get through this skin right here. And I think they'll take care of most of this and get to the seed by the time we come back in here. Now here are a bunch of bananas that just must have gone bad. I think I'm only gonna take out 2 because I don't want them to ferment. Sometimes when you put a lot of bananas in there, they almost turn to like a extract smell or almost like a banana alcohol. So I'm just gonna limit it to 2. Now I have somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 worms in here. So they will be able to get to this. If you have only 1,000 worms, then I would not even put maybe a quarter of 1 banana in here. So just make sure that you're feeding your bins according to how many worms you have in there. And we're gonna open it up for them so they can go ahead and attack it. So that was some slower food, and now we're gonna go in with the faster food. So this lettuce should be all gone by the time we get back in here in about a week's time. Looks like romaine to me. There we go. Just kind of spread it out. And then here's some broccoli stalks. I actually like to eat the broccoli stalks, but I don't think either of my parents do. So we'll go ahead and dump this in if I can figure this bag out. All right, there we go. In goes the broccoli. So this is already kind of smelling like broccoli and, you know, just kind of stuff that you wouldn't want to leave out overnight. But when I bury this up, the worms are going to start attacking it, and the worm bin actually does not smell. Last thing I'm going to do is put in a little bit more lettuce, and I'm getting the head nod from the executive producer that I'm making a huge mistake, but I'm going to keep on going with it. Here is a large cucumber. So this is just one huge food mess. Oh my gosh. All this was previously frozen, as you can kind of see from the crystals. But I may have to take a little bit longer than a week to get back in here because I think they are really going to have a field day with this. So I think I'm going to add some more bedding on top too, just to kind of mix in here. And then I'll start adding our amendments. And I've got a really cool amendment for you, so stick around. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of the rest of this worm chow, which is just expired grains and flours and cornstarch from my pantry that we just decided to put in here instead of throwing them away. And then we're going to add some coffee grounds from our morning coffee. We just saved the grounds and then we put them in this container, let them kind of dry out a little bit, and then we add them to our worm bin. And then here is the star of the show. Peggy Helbling from Peggy Helbling's Garden What You've Got gave a great idea, and that is to take your crustacean shells from shrimp or whatever and dry them out. So I put them in our toaster oven on about 250 for, I don't know, about 20 minutes. Surprisingly, did not stink up the house, and dried them out. And then I put them in my Magic Bullet blender and blended them up. So I've got some different grit. Usually I used eggshells, but this time I've got some lobster shells. And the reason I have lobster shells is because every time my mom and dad come over to visit, I ask my dad what he wants to eat. And he always says, steak and lobster, you know, kind of a dad joke. So this time I surprised him and I actually had steak and lobster for him. So I'm pretty excited about this grit that we're using here. So thank you, Peggy, for that wonderful idea and for showing us how to dry it out, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and bury this, and then what we'll do is we'll take the worms that we took out from when we harvested, and we'll add them to the top and do a little bit of a time lapse. I don't think we had too many worms in there just because we really stuck to the outer edges and didn't get a whole bunch of worm balls. You can see there's lots of worms in this bin. In fact, you can see a lot of them right here. So this bin does have a lot, and we just didn't get them because we were able to go to the side. So this is all set, and let's go ahead and add our worms. All right, so here they are. 1, 2, 3. Just kind of spread them out and let them go underneath. So it looks like they found their way down there. So I'm going to add a little bit more bedding. And by little, I mean a lot. And even more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the bin in about a couple hours after the worms have made their way even further down. And then I'm going to add some water to the top of it, which is very easy to do because this bin drains, through the fabric. So I hope you're all doing well. I hope your worm bins are doing well. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.